So, we're going to make a Roman sort of dessert or sweet. Okay, now this is from a site I follow, Tasting History by Max Miller, who I'll say specialises in videos of historical from way back all the way through to fairly modern times recipes. And this was one that he done recently, and I thought it looked good. It's got honey in it, so who can complain? And this is from Cato the Elder's cookbook, if you like, the De Agricultura, I think it's called. Okay, and it's called Globi or Globi, and this goes all the way back to the 2nd century BC. Okay, it's a very simple dish. We've got 120 grams of spelt flour, and the spelt's like an ancient grain. Okay, we need cheese with it. Now, obviously, we don't know what kind of cheese it is, so we're going to use ricotta, and essentially that's it. And then we deep fry them. So I've got some olive oil there ready to heat up, and then not soak them, but roll them in some honey, and then just sprinkle some poppy seeds on. Unfortunately, I thought I had poppy seeds, I don't. So I'm going to sprinkle on some sesame seeds. Okay. So the original recipe, the translation says, I'm reading this, mix the cheese and spelt in the same way. Whatever that means, right? Make as many as desired. This we're going to make about 12. Okay. Pour fat into a hot copper vessel and fry it 1 or 2 at a time, turning them frequently with 2 sticks. Well, 2 sticks. We use tongs, right? And remove when done. Coat with honey, sprinkle with poppy seeds, and serve. So we won't necessarily be serving these hot, right? But we'll be using them or having them later for dessert. So that's what we're going to make. So I'm just going to make sure I've got everything ready, and then we'll get on. So I've measured out my flour, and now I'm just going to add my ricotta to this. And essentially all we're going to do now is just mix the two together. Okay. Max described it's a bit like making a cheesecake, really. Okay, so we're just going to get this thoroughly all mixed together, and once we've done that, we're then just going to shape them, and like I said, into about 12 balls. Alright, so I'm also going to put my oil on to heat. Okay, so that's nice and hot. So when I'm ready to start making my balls, I'll get back to you. Right, so my oil's on heat. We've got to watch it with that one because this is a little bit unstable with this. If you've got enough oil, you can do it deep enough that you can submerge the balls. If not, you'll just have to keep rotating them. And we want the balls to be a nice golden brown colour. So let's split this, okay? So remember, we're going to make about 12 from this. I don't know if I said how much ricotta to use. With that amount of flour, it should be 120 grams of flour and 240 grams of ricotta. The ricotta was actually 250 gram pack, so I just chucked all the 250 gram in. So there you go. So just making even golf ball size balls. Alright, so just going to roll these and wait for the oil to come up. I've got a little bowl here with some honey in, and once these have cooled off, so what we need to do before we put them in the oil, I'll get my wire rack and I'll put some paper underneath, and we then drain them on the wire rack, and when they're nicely drained, that's when we'll be dipping them in the honey, coating them in the honey, and sprinkling with some, like I say, it should be poppy seeds. Didn't have any in the end. They're nigella seeds, which I don't think are poppy seeds. So we're going to use sesame, so not too authentic. Now if you go and check on Max's site, Tasting History, remember, he'll say probably use something different to olive oil, because you the smoke point I've only got olive, well that amount of olive that I can fry these things in. We want to get up to about 350, okay. If you get about that temperature, that should cook them properly rather than either cooking them on the outside too quick, and also making sure they don't sit in the oil and soak it all up. So I've moved my rack with some paper towel underneath it nearer to this, so less spillage as it were. Okay, just coming up to 300, get in there. So that's just about getting there now. So I'm not worried about my honey at the moment, because like I say, we want to drain them. So let's test it out. Drop one in, drop another in. Now, I haven't quite got enough oil here to cover them all, so we're going to sort of fry them probably only a minute or so. Okay, but because we're not fully submersible, we just need to turn them occasionally. It's starting to brown, but because I'm not fully submerged, I ain't getting there. You want them a nice even brown all over, which they're not quite yet. Okay, so I think it's going to take a little bit longer than 60 seconds, to be honest. But it's getting there, it's getting there. I think it's catching on the bottom, to be honest. The ricotta, they're not like cheesy bites we bite into them and they're all melted cheese in the middle, because the cheese is all mixed in with the flour. Okay, just about getting there now, I think. Leaving this running in a minute because I'm going to whip them out in a minute. You'll see what they look like. There we go, get in there. And then I'll fry off the rest. I won't make watch that bit. It's almost there now. They're going to be a very sticky thing to eat because obviously they're, right, there we go. So out comes one, onto the rack, out comes the other, onto the rack. And a nice golden brown, then we go with our next two. So I'm going to cook them all off and then we'll look at what we do next. Right, there you can see they've all cooked. I don't know whether it's simply because they soak it up or whether because of the temperature of the oil, but very little to come off. Okay, so now all I'm going to do is I'm going to dip them into the honey. Okay, now you might find, as Max said, it helps if you heat your honey, but this seems to be fine for me. It is going to be a very sticky dessert. Okay, so I'm just putting it straight onto a plate. I'm already got it go over the edge. So all we're going to do is just carry on dipping and coating. Okay, and then when I've got a layer of them, I'm going to sprinkle some sesame seeds on top. So just going to pause there while I coat all the others, and then we'll finish it and we'll taste it. Got to taste this one. So got some sesame seeds. Just going to sprinkle them over, and I've done one little one separate. A little sprinkling of that. Sesame seeds everywhere. So let's taste it. Okay. So notice when I picked them up to put them in the honey, they feel sort of like soft inside. I'm trying to think it almost not quite crisp on the outside, but obviously, what do I call it? A bit of a squidgy shell really. So let's see what it's like inside. I'm not sure how nice these would be without the honey on. Okay, I'm not sure whether it's that the ricotta I can taste. or flour, because it's certainly not cooked all the way through. But definitely cheesy. And well, perfect little dessert. Globi from ancient Rome.